that don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host, Melissa.
I'm not talented anymore.
Well, you are talented, but you're also
talented.
I got to change it up every once in a while.
Okay, got it.
I got the AC cranking in here, so
I know.
I had to go get a blanket before we started the podcast.
JD freezes me out.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that we get asked all the time, and when we first started, we were asking all the time, because I think this topic is super hard to understand and grasp, especially if you come from an environment where you're not given all your money from your mom and dad,
Okay.
and when you don't have a lot of these resources, or you haven't been exposed to the resourcefulness. And that topic's private money. We get tons of questions. We talk about it all the time. So we thought it would be a great idea to bring in Jay Connor. He's known as the Private Money Authority. He has a podcast that you guys can find, Raising Private Money. Hey, Jay, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hear all the ins and outs of private money.
JD and Melissa, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about the subject I'm the most passionate about, that being private money, because private money has had more of an impact on mine and Carol Joy's real estate investing business than any other strategy that we have implemented in our business ever since 2003.
Yeah. Well, one, thank you again for coming on, but can you kind of give us just like the highlights of your career? So you started in 2003, you went through the crash, and show what's led you to this point. And then I really want to deep dive private money, getting private money, not being afraid of private money, all of those things that pop up all the time.
Sure. Well, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we're here in eastern North Carolina in a little teeny tiny town called Morehead City, North Carolina, population 8,000 people. We started investing in single family houses in 2003, and our total target market is only 40,000 people. We do about 3 deals a month now. Average profits now are $82,000 per transaction. And I don't share those numbers to brag. I share those numbers to make a point. And that is, you don't have to be in a big market to make significant income, as long as you know how to find those off-market deals before other real estate investors know about them, and as long as you got the funding available. Well, the first 6 years that we were in business, from 2003 until January 2009, I relied on the local bank to fund my deals. That's all I knew to do. I didn't know anything about buying creatively subject to the existing note. I didn't know anything about private money. I didn't know anything about self-directed IRAs. I just thought you had to go to the bank and get on your hands and knees and put your hands underneath your chin and say, please fund my deal, and raise your skirt up so the banker could look at your personal assets and your financial statement and show everything you got. And they made the rules. They made all the rules. They set the interest rate. They set everything, the length of the note. That's all I knew to do. Well, didn't things change dramatically for me in January 2009? I was sitting right here at this desk, and I picked up my phone. You all may find it hard to believe, Melissa, but we still have handsets and cords actually here in eastern North Carolina. But I picked up my phone and I called my banker. His name was Steve, and I'd been doing business with Steve for these first 6 years. I had 2 houses under contract to buy, and I called up Steve. I told him about the deals, and I learned like that on the phone that my line of credit had been shut down with no notice whatsoever. I said, Steve, What do you mean my line of credit is shut down? We've got a great relationship. I've been making payments to you for 6 years. Steve said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on? I said, no, but now you just gave me a global financial crisis because I can't fund these 2 deals that represented over $100,000 in profit. So I hung up the phone. I sat here for a moment, and I'm going to share a question that I asked myself. And I promise you this question will fix any problem your audience has: personal, financial, career, health, business, relationships. It don't matter. Here's the question I asked myself when I hung up the phone from my banker. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem? And by the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have no opportunity. I had a problem. I couldn't fund my deals, right? So when I asked myself who could help me with my problem, I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship, good friend of ours, who lived in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. I called him up. I said, Jeff, I got a problem. And I told him what happened. He said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, what club? He said, the club of having your line of credit shut down at the bank. My bank shut me down last week. I said, well, how are you going to fund your deals, Jeff? He said, well, have you heard about private money? I said, no. He said, have you heard about self-directed IRAs and how people can take retirement funds and be a private lender? I said, no, I never heard of any of that stuff. So he told me about it. I shut down the phone. I put it on the receiver, and I immediately studied it. And here's what it is. I put my private lending program together that I was going to teach people that I had a connection with as to how they could earn high rates of return safely and securely and be a totally passive investor. You know, the traditional way of borrowing money at the bank or hard money lenders is you're making applications, you're applying for a loan. But in this world, we're not asking for money. You know, here's what's interesting, Melissa and JD. Since that time, I've never asked anybody for money. And they say, Jay, how in the world have you got $8.5 million in private money that you use from project to project? And right here is the secret sauce and the secret answer. I put on my private money teacher hat, and I teach people what private money is, how they can use investment capital or retirement funds to get high rates of return safely and securely. And so I went about doing that the first 90 days I was cut off. And here's the other secret to not having to ask for money, and then I'll turn it back to you all. So I was able to raise $2,150,000 in the first 90 days of being cut off from the banks in 2009. It was a blessing in disguise. We tripled our business because I had all this private money available. And, you know, all those foreclosures were coming along and the banks weren't lending money. So if you had the cash or private money, you could pick and choose. Well, here's the secret as to how you get your private lender to fund your deals. We see, desperation's got a smell to it, right? And, you know, if you're talking about a deal that you need funding and you're talking about your private lending program in the same conversation, you are sounding desperate, even if you don't mean to. So we separate the conversation between here's the private lending program, here's the interest rate we pay on deals, here's how you can get your money back in case of an emergency, here's how you're protected, without talking about any deals. And so we teach them how they can be a private lender. I got 47 private lenders today. Not one of them ever heard of private money or private lending until I put on my teacher hat. None of them knew what self-directed IRAs are. Over half of them are using their retirement funds. So here is the script. I'm going to give it away right now. Here's the script of exactly what to say when you call your private lender and you got a deal for them to fund. You're not going to pitch a deal. I've never pitched a deal in my life. So they've already told me how much money they got to invest. They love the program, the opportunity. If they've got retirement funds, they've already moved them over to the self-directed IRA company that I recommended. And until I put their money to work, they're not making any money. So they're sitting by the phone waiting for the phone call. So, Melissa, let's say you're one of my new private lenders. Let's say you've told me you got $150,000 that you want to invest and you're waiting for my phone call. And so a week or two goes by after you find out about my program. And then I call up Melissa, my new private lender, with what I call the great news phone call. Here's the great news phone call, and here's the script. I dial up, Melissa answers the phone. I say, hey, Melissa, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. The funding required for that property is $150,000. Closing is going to be next Wednesday, so you'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account, my closing agent, by next Monday. I'm going to have my attorney email you the wiring instructions. That is the end of the conversation. Notice I did not ask Melissa, does she want to fund the deal? Of course she wants to fund the deal because she's been waiting for the phone call that I promised I'd put her money to work. And particularly if she's moved that $150,000 over to the self-directed IRA company, she's not making any money. I'm ethically bound to put her money to work. That essentially is how I now have $8.5 million of private money without ever asking anybody for money.
Yeah. Well, one, that is phenomenal process. It is very much the way that we close regular deals. We're not asking them to go into agreement with us. We're saying, hey, here's the solution. Either you want the solution or you don't. We're not forcing a solution on anybody. And that's a very similar to the process that you just described.
Absolutely. You know, raising private money, just like you negotiating with sellers. We ain't begging, chasing, selling, persuading. In fact, when I'm having conversations, I've always got one foot out the door that I'm getting ready to back out and go. Because quite frankly, there's a lot more private money available than there are deals, to tell you the truth, at least in my experience and in this market. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We're not, whenever I feel like I'm trying to sell somebody on something, instead of leading with a servant's heart and offering them, as you say, a solution. I mean, these people don't know what to do with their money. And by the way, these private lenders are individuals just like you and me. I mean, they're just like, regular people you go to church with, people in your cell phone, people on your Facebook, people on your email list, people you play golf with, right? Just your regular old people.
Well, yeah, and that brings up a good question, I think, because one of the common complaints that we have, we run our monthly real estate meetup, and a lot of the new people come in, and one of the first things they say when they're introducing themselves is they're looking for money, and they don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that's rich. I don't have a rich grandma. I don't
Everybody's
know
poor in my family.
And I don't have it as good as you. I don't have the network that you have. What do you tell these people?
I hear it all the time. First of all, I don't believe them because they actually haven't sat down and gone through the process of step number one, which is making your list of connections you have. There's three categories of private lenders as to where are these people? Where are they? So the first category I just alluded to, that's people in your own network, people you've got some kind of association with. The second category of private lenders is what I call your expanded network. So I teach brand new real estate investors, seasoned real estate investors, my lands. I had Stu and Harriet Baldwin from Elvira, New York, come to me a couple of years ago. They already had 100 houses in their portfolio and wanted to raise private money. They'd already raised $1 million in private money, but they wanted to raise more. So I helped them get about $3 million more in private money. So I help seasoned real estate investors and brand new real estate investors. Here's the point. Second category of private lenders are your expanded network. What do I mean by that? Your expanded network simply means, and by the way, I know y'all agree, there's a direct correlation between your network, the value and quality of your network, and your net worth, of course, old cliche. So how do you expand your network? I teach it all the time. Let me tell you one of the quickest way to explode your network overnight. Here it is. BNI, Business Networking International. Melissa, with you being with EXP, you've got to know BNI, Business Network. I've attracted millions of dollars from just a local BNI, Business Networking International, a group here in Morehead City, North Carolina. So what is BNI? It's very different from Rotary Club, civic groups, etc. BNI was founded decades ago by Ivan Meisner. There's a chapter in every little town in the United States, pretty much. Just go to Business Networking International, you can find your local chapter. And the purpose of being in that group is to promote each other's business and give each other leads for business. So I joined BNI years and years ago as a real estate investor that shows other people how to get high rates of return safely and securely. So I had 20 other people sending me leads of people that wanted to be a passive investor and make high rates of return. That's one way of many that I can share. The third category of where you find private lenders are existing private lenders. These are individuals just like us that are loaning money out from their investment capital and or their retirement funds to other real estate investors. So how do you find them people? Well, I'll tell you a free way, and then I'll tell you a quick way. I'll tell you two free ways. As a matter of fact, I started out looking for existing private lenders here in my own local market. I hired my real estate attorney's paralegal to search public records for individuals at the courthouse on public record that were loaning money out collateralized by mortgages or deeds of trust. We weren't looking for LLCs and company names, but, Joe Smith has got a mortgage or a deed of trust at the courthouse. Well, in 90 days, we only found 2 people. I said, there's got to be a better and quicker way. So we started the private lender data feed. That's a software tool that I have that the members of my community have access to. We get every new private lender loan that's closed in the nation every month with their contact information, with the interest rate they're getting. Let me give you another free resource. Did you know that over 70% of account holders at self-directed IRAs, third-party custodians that are approved by the IRS, over 70% of those account holders want to loan real estate investors money. They want to loan them money from their retirement account. They want to be a passive investor. Well, guess what? I know of a particular self-directed IRA company, and there's others that do it, that host once a month a free networking event virtually on Zoom where they bring their account holders together with other people such as us looking to borrow money. And they put you in breakout rooms and you get to network with each other. So get connected to a self-directed IRA company that's in your local area that you can go to their networking events because those people there are wanting to loan you money. Here's the difference. With them people, you're not putting on your teacher hat with them people. That's a negotiation process because they already know what private money is. They already know what interest rate they are accustomed to getting. So that's a negotiation conversation instead of a teaching opportunity. When you teach people in your warm market, you make the rules. You set the interest rate. You set the maximum loan to value, et cetera. But when you're borrowing from hard money lenders, existing private lenders, then it's about go back and forth negotiation process. But those are the 3 categories, generally speaking, where you find private lenders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I think reaching out and really taking the time to evaluate your network and seeing not just who you know, but who the people in your network know too. Because just because the opportunity isn't good for your friend's parents might be the ones that have money that they need to put to work. So don't exclude your network. And so many people write it off. A lot of times too, I think that people are afraid because if you hadn't been doing real estate very long and you have all of these people in your network who know you as the short order cook at the local fast food restaurant, are they going to be willing to give you $100,000? And that whole mindset is different. It needs to change, and the way that you approach it is, so obviously you need to have integrity, and they need to trust you, and trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. But do you have any tips for the investors to make that mindset switch or that mindset flip from I'm begging for money to providing an opportunity? How do you get people to see that? Or is it something that just happens over time?
Well, it's a great question. So I'm glad you asked it for this reason. People ask me all the time, Jay, how do I get started? Like, what's the first thing I do? How do I start raising or attracting private money? And the answer is in the question that you just asked me. How you get started is you realize that it's going to be very hard to own real estate until you own the real estate in between your ears, right? So we got to get our mindset right. Here's the deal. It's a win-win scenario between you and private lenders, so everybody's winning. But more importantly, you must have a mindset of you are leading with a servant's heart and you're offering them a solution to their problem, and you're not thinking about any deals. You know, the worst time to raise private money
is when you need it.
Is when you need it, right? That's the worst time to be trying to attract private money. By the way, Melissa and JD, you know what drives me stupid crazy? I mean, stupid crazy. And I know, I'm getting ready to say something. I know you all have heard it. For God's sakes, I hope you don't preach it. But I have heard this hundreds of times and I want to throw up every time I hear it. Gurus will get on the platform in front of an audience. And you know what they say? Oh, just get the deal under contract. The money will show up. You ever heard that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Lots of times.
You reckon? Yeah, look. And I want to say, where is the money going to show up? Is he just going to like rain out of clouds or something, you know? No, the money ain't going to show up unless you've already got a relationship with private lenders, or you've got a relationship with a hard money lender, or you got to, you know, you got to have your relationships in place. I mean, I just don't want to be out there making offers on properties and I don't have a clue where the money's going to come from, right? So I practice and preach, get the money lined up first. But back to your new real estate investor. You know, I hear this question all the time. Who's going to loan me money and I've never done a deal? Who's going to loan me money and I've never borrowed private money? That's a great question. Well, here's one of the answers. And here's a writer downer. If you don't pay the private lender, the property does. For goodness sakes, you're not borrowing unsecured funds. You can legally, but for goodness sakes, don't. We want to secure that loan, collateralize it with a mortgage or a deed of trust, right? And so we're going to secure the note. We're going to look after our private lenders. How are they protected? Well, it's collateralized. We're not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. I didn't say 75% of the purchase price. Big difference. 75% of the after repaired value. We're going to name them on the insurance policy as a mortgagee, gives them another layer of protection. We're going to name them on the title policy as an additional insured. And so we're going to protect our private lenders. In addition to that, if you do not have the confidence, I mean, for one thing, you better know what you're doing when it comes to making an offer on a property and what's the most you should offer on a property. And if you don't have the confidence to do this business and talk with other potential private lenders, then here's what you got to do. You must, if you're smart, leverage a relationship with a mentor such as JD and Melissa, or somebody that knows what they're doing, right? I mean, don't start this business out the way I did, for goodness sakes. I started out here on an island by myself, read a few books, relied on my experience in the mobile home and manufactured housing business, and went out here and did this thing. I have got no idea how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I lost and could have saved if I had gotten the coaching and the mentoring. So how can you do this and you've never done it before? Leverage your relationship that you got with somebody, right? Like, you know, if you're leveraging your relationship with JD and Melissa or whoever, you can say, well, my business partner, like myself, my business partner has done over 500 renovations and rehabs of single family houses in North Carolina. Let me introduce you to my business partner. You bring the people to the phone, let your business partner get the private lenders signed up. You don't have to go that route. You know, I didn't start that way, right? But that's another way that you can boost your confidence by, you know, joint venturing with a mentor or a coach.
Yeah.
Good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, so we've been doing this for a little while, and we're part of a bunch of different masterminds, but we've seen multiple people who seem to be upstanding individuals, people that we had been acquaintances with over the years, that come on, teach private money, teach other people how to invest in real estate. And now we're looking back, and there's two specifically that I'm thinking of. I won't name names, but we see that what ended up happening is they started first, everything was legitimate. They're taking private money, securing it to the real estate. Then maybe they stop securing it. They're putting it into some sort of fund, or they're just receiving this money, and then they get into this trap where it's not secured to a specific project, and they're using the money they raised to pay for the payouts of these other guys. And we've had two people that are in the network that we were a part of over the last 6 years or 7 years that have gotten in a lot of trouble for essentially stealing people's money. And that hurts us, because now those people who got their money stolen aren't going to be private money lenders to legitimate people. And in those people that they taught, us included, you know, look and say like, hey, these guys knew what they were doing was wrong and chose to do it anyway. When you're a private money lender or somebody who is borrowing money, how do you know which people to stay away from? How can I know that when somebody is or when I'm lending my money to somebody else, that they're not one of these sharks that are just running a giant Ponzi scheme looking to steal our money?
Yeah. Well, in your explanation or your sharing of the story, in lies the answer. And that is, you said the borrower, the real estate entrepreneur that was raising capital and borrowing the money, moved from security, deeds of trust and mortgage, to unsecured. There's your answer. Don't ever loan money unsecured. I don't care if it's your mama, right? In fact, my mother is one of our private lenders, and my mother gets everything that our other 46 private lenders get: promissory note, deed of trust, named on the insurance, title policy, maximum loan to value, all that. So I don't care what kind of relationship you have with a private lender or you as a private lender. I don't care how much you trust anybody else. The only thing that matters in real estate at the end of the day is what's in writing and what's recorded on public record. That's the only thing that matters when it comes to you getting paid. So don't loan money unsecured.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I learned that the hard way. No, but I got lucky because I lent out $40,000 or $60,000. It was the first time I'd ever done it, and the payments came in at first right away, and then they slowed up, and then I had to threaten legal recourse. And luckily, I did end up getting my money back. It was a nightmare though. And I learned the hard way that, and not as hard as other people, that you must secure your funds to something that's worth it. That's why banks make you, put a down payment. There is some collateral there that ties it to you. But I wish that I would have had discussions like that prior to lending my money out, but it ended up working out in the end. But it is scary. And being a lender to a situation that went bad, one of the things that I learned, especially when we're borrowing now, is that communication between you as the person borrowing money and your lender is key. Now, they don't need to know every single detail of what's going on, but if you know there's a problem and you've borrowed somebody's money, they put trust and faith into you, the best thing you can do is let them know early and communicate often. Don't just not make a payment and tell them, oh, sorry, I'll get you next time, and don't do that explanation, because that causes a lot of anxiety in the person that just lent you $100,000. But what we've also found is most people are reasonable and they understand that some things come up. And if there is a problem and you're communicating, then it's something you can work through. The other thing is 100% of the time you need to pay back your investors. If you're taking a loan, it's just that, they can foreclose on it, then that's probably not the way to do business.
In this business, there's a lot of ways to mitigate the risk. There's risk in anything you do. I mean, you go out there and get in your car, you just took a risk. So how do you mitigate that risk? And so first of all, the way I mitigate the risk is, of course, I renovate a lot of houses. My team does. And we've renovated over 500 here in our local area of only 40,000 people. All these years. And really the protection in mitigating the risk is in the offer and not in estimating repairs perfectly. I mean, for goodness sakes, I ain't never had a rehab budget come in on budget.
Or under.
Never. I mean, Murphy always shows up with the unexpected. Sometimes Murphy's cousins and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters show up as well, even if you got a great home inspection. So getting repairs exactly right is really not the secret sauce. The offer and what you're buying that property for at a deeply discounted enough of amount is what's mitigating that risk, right? And, as a result of that, I mean, have I ever had a projected budget come in on budget? No. But at the same time, because of how we buy, all these private lender loans that we've done, hundreds and hundreds of them, every one of the private lenders got every penny that was coming to them that was in that promissory note. And the reason that happened was because how we made the offer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jay, if our listeners got any value out of this conversation, if they want to find out more about you, more about your podcast, more about what you guys are doing over there, how to raise money, where can we send them?
Absolutely. So I finally finished writing my book. I'm so excited about it. It's called Where to Get the Money Now. Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Hard Money Lenders or any kind of traditional lenders. This is not an ebook. This is a book. I will 3-day priority mail it to you, ship it in the mail. It's $20 on Amazon, but don't spend $20 on Amazon. I'm going to give you the URL right now. You can get it for free. Just cover shipping. And here is the URL, jayconner.com/book. I'm an ER, not an OR. So that's jayconner.com/book. Now, in addition to the book that I'm going to email that holds your hand step by step as to how you can easily raise private money, I'm also including 2 free tickets valued at $3,000 for my upcoming private money conference. private money conference that we hold right here in Eastern North Carolina. These tickets are valued at $3,000. I'm including 2 free tickets with the book. You'll get that in the mail. And then finally, you can come follow me on my podcast. We're on all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, Buzzsprout, we're there. Follow me at Raising Private Money with Jay Connor. Just type in Raising Private Money and we'll pop up. Always have amazing guests. I interview them on how they've raised private money. And guess what? Melissa and JD are upcoming guests as well on Raising Private Money. And I'll be picking their brain as to how they've raised private money because we can all learn from each other.
Sure. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Jay, we really appreciate you coming on the show. There's a ton of value there. You guys make sure you get over there and check out Raising Private Money, their the podcast over there, and we'll see you on that side.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, JD. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.